Chapter 11:11. Madam has left. Water towns. Those were very far away. It was true that Lin Che had never gone to a water town. She looked outside the window at the perfectly straight lanes that stretched neatly to the stocketed village ahead. They were in the throes of the tourist season and many people were there. Dongzi drove the car slightly slower until they arrived at a local inn. After going in, they made arrangements to stay there. Many of the inns were bursting with people. This inn was a bit more expensive. But Lin Che did not care whether or not it was expensive. She merely wanted to find a relaxing place to stay. It just so happened that there were not many people staying here because it was too expensive, so it was much emptier. After Lin Che entered, Dongzi looked at her probingly. Don't we need to inform Mr. Ji Yu? Lin Che was still irritated at the mention of Ji Yu Jing's. No need, she said. She leaned back and thought about it. She felt that since she had never been to a small water town like this one, she preferred to tidy up a bit before going out to explore. Thus, she tidied her appearance and prepared to go out, pushing that damned Ji Yu Jing's to the very back of her mind. Ji Yu Jing's was currently leaning backward, but he sensed that someone was making tea beside him. The moment he caught a whiff of that scent, he knew that it was not Lin Che. At all times, the scent of Lin Che's body was always faint. It was like the sweet smell of vanilla and not a fragrance like this that had the pervasive smell of cosmetic products. After smelling the scent on Lin Che's body for a long time, he genuinely felt that any other smell seemed very pungent. He turned around and saw Secretary Lan making tea behind him. President Ji Yu, take a break and have some tea, she smiled and said. Ji Yu Jing's let out a hum of affirmation and said, it's all right. You can go out. Although he had thought that Lin Che was a little sensitive at the time, he instinctively felt uncomfortable when he looked at Secretary Lan again. He probably felt that she had caused Lin Che's unhappiness, which in turn made him unhappy. Hearing this, Secretary Lan felt faintly disappointed, but turned around and walked out. Before she had even gone out the door, a security guard walked straight in. Secretary Lan said unhappily, "What are you doing? President Ji Yu is taking a break. Why did you casually barge in?" Recently, these security guards were becoming more and more unruly. They did not even knock on the door and came inside directly. The security guard said, "It's regarding Madam. Move aside." They had to report the first thing when it came to matters concerning Lin Che, regardless of when it was or what Ji Yu Jing's was doing at the time. This was everyone's common understanding and Ji Yu Jing's had also implicitly permitted this. He pushed Secretary Lan aside and walked inside directly, saying, "Sir, Madam left in a car." Sure enough, Ji Yu Jing's immediately stood up. What? Madam's subordinates drove the car. Initially, they said she was going out for a spin. But in the end, they went all the way west. Right now, they've made a stop at Fengqing Town. Fengqing Town. It was a water town that many people went to during a vacation. It was extremely well known in the country and there were many people there. Ji Yu Jing's immediately said, "Send people there to watch over her." His eyes twitched and he planned to leave at once. Ji Yu Jing's was also aware that Lin Che had suddenly left this place probably because she was angry. Secretary Lan found it strange. When she saw that Ji Yu Jing's was about to leave just like that, she momentarily felt a little anxious too. President Ji Yu, we haven't completed our work here. We can send people to look for Madam. Abandoning the work here now, Secretary Lan said worriedly. Ji Yu Jing said, "We'll drop everything on hand first. It's fine for them to wait." Secretary Lan asked, "What? But isn't it better to finish things in one shot? Why should we waste even more time? Madam merely went off to relieve her boredom." Secretary Lan even wanted to stretch her arm out to block him. Ji Yu Jing's gaze suddenly hardened. With one arm, he shoved Secretary Lan aside directly. Secretary Lan was stunned. Ji Yu Jing's gaze met hers and became even sharper. He suddenly felt that something was off. Secretary Lan's gaze was frantic and she looked very anxious. What was there to be anxious about if he was merely leaving? Ji Yu Jing's looked her up and down. Out of the blue, he said, "Secretary Lan, I think that you've worked in S-City for too long. You've been in this position for too long too. Perhaps it's time for a change of environment." Secretary Lan froze. Ji Yujing said, go report to the Human Resources Department. You're going to Austria. What? Secretary Lan felt as if her head had been dealt a heavy blow. She immediately went into a daze. Lin Che saw quite several people taking photos here. For a moment, she also felt that the exquisiteness of the water town was truly beautiful. She also wanted to take photos. But as her belly was still very big right now, it was probably not a good idea to take these photos. After all, on this trip, she saw that the photos other people took were very artistic. She herself genuinely wanted to take photos too. Although she usually took photos casually since she is a celebrity, often taking cover photos and promotional photos, those photos were for work purposes after all. Privately, she had never taken a single photo. Lin Che was suddenly in the mood to take photos. She instructed people to ask how to take these photos. She looked down at her protruding belly. It suddenly occurred to her that this was her second pregnancy, but she had not left any mementos at all. Wasn't it a trend to take pregnancy photos right now? She should take one too. Later in the afternoon, Dongzi instructed someone to bring a photography team here. They were a little starstruck when they came in and saw Lin Che. This was none other than Lin Che. Of course, they did not believe it at first and looked at Lin Che curiously. But seeing as she was staying in such a nice place and had so many people with her, perhaps it really was Lin Che. With this thought in mind, they looked at Lin Che but did not dare to ask because they clearly saw that Lin Che's round belly was not fake. What is this lady's name? What photos do you plan to take? The photographer ventured. Lin Che said, my name is Lin Che. I'm planning to take photos. Ah, Lin Che. Are you really Lin Che? That Lin Che, right. Seeing as Lin Che had clearly identified herself, they felt that she was not planning to hide anything either. Lin Che smiled at them with squinted eyes. Since they had seen her, it would be difficult to hide, so she said frankly, yes. I came here to enjoy myself. This is a personal matter. I hope that you don't tell other people. We're only planning to let people know about these private matters later. She turned her head and looked at Dongzi meaningfully. They immediately took out a wad of cash and gave it to them. Lin Che said, thank you in advance for today. I'll be in your care in the future too. The moment they saw a large amount of money, flowers of joy bloomed in their hearts. They were really in luck today. Celebrities were not lacking in money at all. In reality, Lin Che had not started any projects recently. It was true that celebrities did not lack money. After she had become the boss of her own company, she received more dividends and her income also increased as a result. But of course, they did not know about all this. They merely thought that it was very easy for famous celebrities to make money. After they took the money, Lin Che spoke again. All right, Dongzi, let them in. Dongzi brought them in. He looked at them and took a few steps. Then, he, accidentally, kicked one of the chairs at the side, smashing it immediately. They were immediately shocked. Behind them, Lin Che smiled faintly. Dongzi, why were you so careless again? Be a bit more careful when you walk. Those chairs can't withstand your strength. They trembled even more. They instantly understood that this was a warning to them. Chapter 11-12. Why are you taking these photos? What a way of applying the carrot and stick judiciously. They took another look at her guards and understood as well that they could not mess with these guards. They looked at each other and felt that since they had taken so much money from her, they had to abide by their professional ethics. Dongzi and the others were worried that something would go wrong, so they had engaged the studio with the most stable business here. It was of a larger scale and had been in the business for many years, so there would probably be no issues. Nevertheless, it was better to give them a bit of a warning as a preventive measure. Lin Che followed them inside as well. Then, they discussed how to go about shooting photos. Lin Che did not want the photos to be particularly unique. She merely wanted to take a few nice-looking pregnancy photos. With Lin Che in mind, they designed several backdrops for her. Naturally, Lin Che was familiar with such tasks. She understood it quickly. They prepared Lin Che's clothes for her. As it was rare for them to meet a major client like her, everything they gave her was of the highest quality. They wanted to do their very best so that Lin Che would be satisfied. Many styles of dress for pregnancy photos tended to be very revealing. The point of this was to display the body shape of the pregnant woman and to show that the body of the pregnant woman was also very beautiful during her pregnancy. Lin Che was not used to wearing clothes that were too revealing, so she chose a few pieces that she could still accept. Many of the pieces exposed the belly. Each of the pieces had their own different style. Some of them were made of light muslin, giving off the air of a goddess. Others were elegant and stylish. There were also pieces that were more of a cute style. There was a suit of ethnic clothing that was very beautiful as well. Lin Che first tried on the light muslin piece. The clothing resembled a cloud. It was flowy on her body like mornings shrouded in fog, giving her an air of a deity. When she came out after changing, all the photographers were stunned. They could not help but gasp in admiration. A celebrity was a celebrity for a reason. She really had a beautiful physique. Miss Lin, do you still work on maintaining your figure during pregnancy? How did you maintain your figure so well? My point exactly. Apart from your belly, you didn't grow plump anywhere else. Look at your legs and arms. They're still as slender as ever. What's more, your waist didn't become thicker at all. Beside her, the makeup artists and stylists who had come along with them, asked Lin Che while looking at her. Lin Che said, "No. I didn't maintain my figure either. I've been taking a break recently too, so I didn't maintain it." Wow, in that case, Miss Lin is really born with a good figure. I'm so envious. Precisely. My cousin back home never slimmed down after her pregnancy. She's still plump at the moment. I reckon it's really difficult to slim down. Indeed, so many people go out of shape during pregnancy. They never slim down afterward. Lin Che was very proud too. Her body was of the alkaline constitution and she simply could not put on weight. Usually, she would not get fatter no matter what she did. Since her digestive system was not that healthy, it made it even easier for her to maintain her physique as well. She did not know what was up with those people who put on weight frequently. Anyway, she could eat whatever she wanted and had never worried about this. Thus, she was often the kind of person whom others would beat up if she went out and talked about weight. Because the moment she talked about how she maintained her figure, she would only say that if she really gained weight she would simply not sleep for a few days and she would immediately slim down. This was indeed the case for her. And by fat, she merely meant a bit more plump. It was definitely not an immense weight gain. Furthermore, she would slim down again after staying up a little late and tiring herself out. After she was dressed, she went to take her first group of photos. The photographer kept instructing her to look left and to look right. They told her how to position her hands. Lin Che listened to his instructions and posed. Because she had a nice figure, every movement of hers was already a painting. The photographer captured the scene he wanted in no time. For a moment, he also felt that they would probably wrap up very early. This sum of money was really easy to earn. After shooting one set of photos, they went out and continued to shoot outdoors. This time, she was dressed in an ethnic costume. She looked so fresh and pure, just like a little girl in the misty rain south of the river. There was a rich poetic quality about her entire body. Lin Che had always had the image of a mature woman in the shoots she had done. She very seldom took photos with the image of a young girl. Now that she had changed her clothes, people genuinely felt even more admiration. Lin Che had the potential to portray many different images. Everyone was still looking at her and planning to take photos of her. But they did not expect to sense movement from the other side. The relatively large scale of movement attracted the confused gazes of the people from the studio. Dear me, so many people are here. What's going on? Someone cried out in alarm. Then, they saw a row of people rush toward them directly. Before they could even react, the people dressed in black had already surrounded this place completely. Everyone yelled as they gathered. They stood together and looked at the people who had barged in out of the blue. As if something major had happened, they trapped them in this place in a repressive manner. What's going on? What happened? Who are these people? We can't have committed some mistake, right? Everyone was still speculating when they saw a man enter swiftly. He walked towards them in quick strides. He immediately stared inside and looked over clearly with a target in mind. Afterward, his eyes flashed. What was going on here? Ji Yu-jings looked at Lin Che. She was dressed in a greenish-white skirt and a white top. Her upper garment had a bit of a fringe to it. Her belly swelled out on top and was naturally not exposed, although it was clearly visible. Her hair was bunned up slightly and the remaining strands blew in the wind. She looked so beautiful. As if it was still his first time seeing her like this. She had worn many period costumes, but those were always a bit more elaborate. This piece was much simpler but gave off an air of water-like gentleness. Her wide sleeves were spread out and her slender arms were gently positioned at the bottom. There was matching makeup on her face, making her look fresh and pleasant. It made people gasp in admiration. Ji Yu-jings asked, What are you doing?" There were so many people around her. So many people were staring and looking at her beautiful appearance. Ji Yu-jings immediately started feeling jealous. Lin Che said in surprise, Yu, why are you here? Why had Ji Yu-jings suddenly arrived now? He had brought so many people with him too. Ji Yu-jings walked towards her quickly. He looked at these people and glared at them before ending up beside Lin Che. You suddenly came here, how could I not come? He said. In the aftermath of her surprise, Lin Che remembered that she had decided to go out to put herself in a better mood after getting angry with him. She immediately pulled her face into a frown and took a step backward. She said, What's wrong with me coming here? I'm taking photos. Go away. Don't waste my time. Taking photos. Why was she taking photos for no reason? Ji Yu-jings asked, What are you taking photos of all of a sudden? Lin Che said, To commemorate my pregnancy. Anyway, move aside. I have to finish this afternoon. There are still many suits of clothes. To commemorate her pregnancy. He had never heard of such a thing and looked at Lin Che in surprise. But she could commemorate her pregnancy if she wanted to. Of course, he had no objections to. But why did she come all the way here to do it? And who were these photographers? At a glance, they did not look very professional. He felt that they were doing this just for the show. Chapter 11:13. Do you know why I'm angry? Ji Yu-jings looked at her. I'll engage a team to help you take photos when we return. Lin Che looked at him. No need. I'm already taking photos. What's more, I think that they're doing a pretty good job. Ji Yu-jings said, They're so unprofessional. Lin Che scoffed. Yes, they're not professional. Unlike in your large corporation. All the employees are so professional and competent. They are willing to sacrifice themselves selflessly for the company. She was so bitter. Ji Yu-jings looked at her and sighed. All right, I admit that I didn't think there was anything off about her in the past. But now, Secretary Lan has already been sent overseas. Sent overseas? So soon? As expected, if there was anything wrong, Ji Yu-jings would definitely be the first to take action. Thus, it was true that he had not believed Lin Che before this and had thought that she was messing around. When Lin Che recalled what had happened, she still felt aggrieved, so for sure she was going to be stubborn for some time. One sentence like this from him could not succeed in cajoling her. No need. Isn't it better to keep such a capable assistant by your side? She will give her heart and soul to you and will definitely be loyal. It's such a shame to send her abroad. She huffed and huffed again before turning her head away. Lin Che, I already told you not to waste my time. Time is of the essence, all right. Ji Yu-jings looked at her. Fine, fine, take your photos, take your photos. He took 2 steps backward. Lin Che said to his men, Can all of you move back? I want to take photos. All of you are so obstructive. Even Ji Yu-jings had ducked to the side. Of course, they didn't dare to continue staying here and being a hindrance. The row of people also backed away to the side. Only then did Lin Che say to the people from the studio, All right. Let's continue taking photos. The people from the studio had already been shocked silly. They registered what was happening only after a long time. They looked at Lin Che now before looking at the others. They were at a complete loss as to what to do. Seeing that everyone was stunned, Lin Che continued, Ignore them. Just treat them as blocks of wood. Let's take our photos. They were standing there one after another. It would be great if they really were blocks of wood. But after looking at them and looking at Lin Che again, they had to brace themselves to continue shooting anyway. because they dared not leave right now either. Sure, Miss Lin, move backward slightly. Stand by the bridge. We'll continue shooting. The photographer had an inkling that this sum of money would not be easy to earn today. In the beginning, he had thought that he was lucky to meet such a major client. But now, he felt that this job seemed a little dangerous. Nevertheless, this set of photos were taken very quickly. After immersing themselves in their work, everyone slowly forgot about the presence of the people around them despite being a bit cautious. Lin Che's every movement was like a painting that lingered in people's minds. Naturally, they followed her pace and took the photos. It felt as if missing even one shot would be a waste. In no time, they moved to the next backdrop. This time, it was a cute style. Her clothes were a little revealing. Her belly was exposed, as were her shoulders. Her chest was pushed out and looked even larger and even more obvious. The shape of her entire body looked very beautiful, but at the side, Ji Yujing's was literally about to have a breakdown. How could she let others see her like this? When Ji Yujing saw Lin Che come out from inside, he already felt the urge to quickly go over and dig out the eyes of everyone present. Lin Che was dressed so sensually. She was so sensual that one glance made everyone feel as if their noses were going to bleed. But there were so many people present. Because Lin Che often filmed productions and took photos, she felt that the stylists and the others were actually very professional. She would not make a fuss just because she had to expose a bit of skin. What's more, she was only showing her belly. However, when she saw Ji Yujing's approach her as if in a mad hurry, she froze immediately. Ji Yujing's lifted her arm directly and dragged her outside. Ji Yujing's, what are you doing? Let go of me. Lin Che shouted while pushing Ji Yujing's hand away. Ji Yujing's only released his hold on her after pulling her all the way inside. Change your clothes, he shouted. Of course, Lin Che did not want to. No, why do I have to? This won't do. He could not say that she was dressed too revealingly either. Perhaps it really was nothing, but he simply felt uncomfortable looking at it. Lin Che asked, why? Do you find my belly distasteful? So you won't allow me to show it? Of course not. How could he find it distasteful? He could not stand to see others staring at her. He could not stand to see her beautiful appearance being captured by everyone else. Lin Che said, in that case, move aside. No way. Why not? No means no. Lin Che scoffed and said, give me at least one reason. Otherwise, I won't listen to you. Ji Yujing's looked at her and said through gritted teeth, all of them were staring at you. His voice was gentle, but a hint of anger was palpable. Hearing this, Lin Che fidgeted slightly. He was jealous, right? She glared at him. He could be jealous, but she was not allowed to be. Lin Che said solemnly, think about it then. If you feel uncomfortable when I'm simply taking some photos right now, would I feel comfortable seeing others by your side so clearly wanting to have you to themselves? And I told you later, but you actually didn't believe me. You didn't believe me at all. You simply felt that I was a troublesome and sensitive woman. At the time, I truly thought that perhaps I had indeed been too troublesome and sensitive. I seemed like a bad woman who was keeping you bound to me. I was exactly like those women who clung to their men for no reason and had delusions about their own men getting snatched away by others. Ji Yujing's heart ached as well. So this was how she had felt. He remained silent. He pursed his already pursed lips even more tightly until they turned purple. Then, he released them. He said briefly, I'm sorry, Lin Che. Lin Che said, that's why I got angry. I was angry at myself. Had I really been too strict with you to the point where you left for the company? I was angry at myself because I had perhaps been in the wrong. Even you felt that I had gone overboard and you wanted to just persuade me to leave. Of course not. Lin Che, you were not in the wrong for that. It's your right to exercise control over the people around me. You're my wife. It's fine for you to have doubts about the women around me. Why would I find you troublesome because of this? Men who say that their wives interfere just for this reason feel guilty themselves. I won't. I find you very adorable when you do it. I mean it. Lin Che felt slightly aggrieved. She turned her head to look at him. Although she felt much better after hearing his words right now, she still could not let him off just like that. She huffed and said, "So, I'm going to take photos now." She pushed him away. "If you feel uncomfortable, the only thing you can do is tolerate it." Ji Yujing clenched his teeth but nevertheless followed her out. He knew that Lin Che liked throwing mini tantrums. He had no choice but to wait on her hand and foot until her anger dissipated. Chapter 11-14. They even got ripped off when they went out to eat. Ji Yujing found a place at the side and sat down, waiting for them to finish the shoot. Lin Che then said to them, "All right. Start shooting." At this, the photographer had no choice but to call everyone to continue. But Ji Yujing's gaze from beside them was so terrifying that it made him feel terrible. With Ji Yujing looking at them like that, how could anyone continue taking photos? The photographer cried internally and thought to himself, sure enough, money was difficult to earn. The photo shoot continued. Ji Yujing continued watching as well. The photographer completed the photo shoot while crying internally. The good thing was that Lin Che was extremely cooperative. Furthermore, the poses she struck were also perfect. Professionalism was still useful at a time like this. After they finally finished shooting a set of photos, the photographer saw that it was already very late. Although their progress was considered very fast, there were 2 suits of clothing that they had yet to shoot. The photographer said to Lin Che, "I don't know how long you're going to stay here. We can probably finish the shoot in the morning." Lin Che then said, "I'll stay here for 2 days. I'm not sure how much longer I'll stay. We can continue the shoot tomorrow." Ji Yujing stood up. "You still want to stay here?" This place looked a little dilapidated. He was not sure if it was in a livable condition. Lin Che said, "The water town is most beautiful at night. Of course, I have to stay here and take a look." Seeing that there was nothing he could do about it either, Ji Yujing nodded in agreement. In their accommodation, Ji Yujing looked at the vintage setup. He felt that although it looked unique, it was not safe. But they had no other choice because this was already the best they could get here. In reality, Lin Che felt that this place was quite nice. It was clean and neat. It was not much more expensive than other accommodations either. These days, there were many inns in the scenic area, so everyone tried their best to make theirs look better and more unique in order to attract guests. This place was one of them. They hosted meal gatherings in the daytime and banquets at night. Very famous troupes performed all the programs. Each day was packed with many special programs to attract people. But Lin Che was not that interested in the programs. She only liked this place because it had fewer people. At night, the lights outside ignited the picturesque little town. The antique town was enveloped in light from modern lighting tools. The light reflected in the streams of water that flowed throughout the entire old town looked extremely beautiful. One of the streets of the old town was lined with pubs. Another was an ethnic culture street. Lin Che tidied herself up, dressed neatly, and went to the ethnic culture street for a stroll. Ji Yujing also trailed after her. He looked around and merely told the rest to follow them in secret after changing their clothes so that they would not dampen her spirits. Ji Yujing looked at Lin Che. "What do you want to eat?" He could tell that this place seemed to have its signature dish. Many stores had local creek whitefish, stated plainly on their shopfronts. Many people ate it too, so it was probably pretty famous. Sure enough, Lin Che saw one of those shops. The shop was quite crowded and its food seemed very delicious and famous. "Let's go in and take a look." Ji Yujing said, "Sure. Let's go." After going in, dressed modestly, Lin Che asked directly for a private room. The waitress said, "The minimum expenditure for a private room is $1,800. Ji Yujing let out a sound of affirmation and immediately gestured for her to lead the way. Seeing that they wanted a private room even though there were only 2 of them, and that they did not even care about the minimum expenditure of $1,800, the waitress thought that they were probably wealthy people. Thus, she led the 2 of them into a private room inside. Whenever Lin Che went out, she could definitely only eat in a private room. Otherwise, people would recognize her when she was outside. She did not take off the glasses on her face after arriving at the private room. The black framed glasses made her face appear even narrower. She looked at the menu but did not understand it either. She said to the waitress, "Help me order every signature dish in your restaurant." The waitress immediately said, "You must eat the local creek whitefish here." Okay, I'll have one of that. We also have these dishes." The waitress described each dish to her. Lin Che agreed to each dish. After the waitress left, Lin Che looked the restaurant up on the internet. It seemed that this restaurant was pretty famous. Many people commented online that they could not even get in. It just so happened that they had come early when they still had private rooms. Because the minimum expenditure for a private room was $1,800, many people felt that they could not spend that amount and simply decided not to go in. She smacked her lips and said with a lot of anticipation, "I wonder how the food here will be." Ji Jing's looked around. It looks as though the food won't be that good. Although this restaurant was furbished pretty well, it had the air of an unprofessional place in the scenic area, as if it was merely to cheat tourists. Because he had run a resort before, he knew how some of the stores in the resort ripped off tourists. Their resort would undoubtedly expel such a store. They were concerned with consumer experience and would not casually deceive consumers. But this place was an ancient town with so many tourists and so many shops. They were probably not that thorough about the consumer experience. Lin Che said, "Yes, yes, yes. In the eyes of the great President Ji, everything pales in comparison to your company. The same goes for the employees too. Your company's employees are the best." She was still acting sarcastic. The dishes were served after some time. After each of them were served, they did look extremely disappointing to Lin Che. They looked a bit different from the pictures outside. Lin Che felt that she had not traveled alone for a very long time. Perhaps she had a poor understanding of scenic areas now. These days, whenever she went out for some fun, it was often with Ji Jing's. But going out with him was more like going on a vacation and not going on a tour. Touring was probably along the lines of the people who went out backpacking on their own. He had everything prepared and they were always in their most comfortable state. Without a doubt, it was definitely a vacation. The last time Lin Che had gone on a tour was when she had still been in school and went on a school trip. Otherwise, she had never actually went on a tour the way ordinary people did. Thus, she was not very familiar with things in a scenic area like this. Lin Che picked up her chopsticks and tried the food. As expected, it did not taste good either. Lin Che sighed. "All right, maybe I'm not used to the taste here." Ji Jing's asked, "Why don't we go to another restaurant?" "No need. This is what traveling is about. Everything depends on chance. If everything is prepared, then there will be no surprises. There will only be surprises if there is both good and bad." She said, "It's not particularly bad either. It's just edible. Eat, eat. It's so expensive." Ji Jing's raised his eyebrows. He did not nitpick and started eating. Although it did not taste good, the two of them had nearly finished everything. In any case, all fish tasted the same. If as long as it was not bitter, its taste was acceptable. After they finished eating, Ji Jing's called the waiter over so that he could foot the bill. While swiping his card, the waitress said, "Sir, $13,200. Please confirm the amount." "What, $13,200? Lin Che looked up. "Why is it so expensive?" The waitress said smilingly, "You had 2 kilograms of fish. Our fish here are quite expensive, to begin with. The other dishes were also a bit pricier. All the ingredients were planted by us and are completely organic." Hee. Even so, it could not be more than $10,000. Although Ji Jing's was usually casual about spending tens of thousands of dollars when he usually went out to eat, what were those places compared to this? Lin Che said, "Hey, are your fishes lined with gold? They're so expensive. $13,200 for just 2 kilograms. Chapter 11:15. What a bustling place. The waitress already knew that they would ask, so she continued to smile and said, "There were also vegetables." Vegetables? Lin Che pulled a long face. She felt that she had indeed been swindled. She said, "I think it's too expensive. Does the Price Bureau know about this?" The waitress chuckled. When she had left earlier, she had informed the boss that two wealthy people had arrived at the restaurant. They asked for a private room as soon as they came. The two of them did not mind spending $1,800. The moment the boss heard this, he thought that they were simply lambs for the slaughter. For people like them who did not mind spending $1,800 so easily, spending more would not matter to them either. Thus, they immediately inflated the prices and planned to extort money from them. At the moment, the waitress was looking at them with a completely nonchalant expression. Come on, you really get a bang for your buck when you eat at our restaurant. You get what you pay for. Look, we have so many people eating downstairs. Our restaurant is very famous too. Look, didn't you finish all the fish? Lin Che looked at her and snickered. That's because the fish was the only thing I could stomach. Hey, you guys don't look like you can't afford it either. Don't look for trouble and raise issues with our dishes just because you're not willing to pay. Lin Che sat there with her eyebrows raised and said, why don't we get the police here and ask them if there's a problem or not? The word, police, made the waitress guffaw instead. She knocked on the door twice. Suddenly, a number of brawny men came in from outside. They were dressed in what looked like a chef's attire. They were probably chefs. However, the menacing expressions on their faces were extremely frightening. The waitress said, Chef Wong, look. They said that your food isn't good. Chef Wong waved his fists and positioned them there. How does it taste bad? Tell me. Lin Che scoffed. Everything about it tastes bad. Had they come here especially to frighten them? Wow, she was so scared. At the side, Ji Yu Jings remained silent and looked on with narrowed eyes. Seeing that the two of them did not seem scared at all, the waitress proceeded to say to them, call the police if you want to. But you'll have to be able to walk out this door first. I advise you to forget it. It isn't that much money anyway. Why would you cause trouble just because you don't want to pay? Everyone comes out to have fun. Look, miss, your belly is so big too. Why would you harm the fetus over something like this? She was reminding her that she was a pregnant woman. She should not be causing trouble. Lin Che immediately said, the dishes aren't worth the price. They simply aren't worth it. I'll give you 1,800 because that's the minimum expenditure here. I will give what I should. I won't give you what I shouldn't. No matter how wealthy she was, it did not mean that people could casually cheat her of her money. The waitress said, you're making it very difficult for me. That really won't do. Then go and have a hard time. I think your dishes are only worth this amount of money. Lin Che stood up as she spoke. The people on the side immediately wanted to take action. However, Ji Yu Jings, who had remained silent at the side, suddenly held down the chef's thick and solid arm with one hand. The waitress hastily retreated, thinking that they were getting into a fight. Unfortunately, this was completely unnecessary, because Ji Yu Jings had already single-handedly twisted his thick arm downwards. It did not take even a moment for the chef to howl in pain and fall onto the ground. This man could actually fight. Only then did they understand why this woman was so confident. Perhaps it was precisely because her man knew a bit of Kung Fu. However, even if he knew Kung Fu, he alone could not defeat so many people. While speaking, Ji Yu Jings had already led Lin Che out. The staff of the restaurant quickly chased after them as well. They looked at Ji Yu Jings and said, don't go. You want to leave without paying? Ji Yu Jings turned around. I'll give you the money. $1,800. You want it or not? Leveraging on the group of people behind her, the waitress shouted, of course not. $13,000, not a dollar less. Ji Yu Jings said, then there's no way we can close the deal. In that case, you get nothing at all. Hey, you guys think you can leave? Why don't you look at where you are? Just then, the tourists outside also noticed at once that there was a commotion happening here. The boss of the restaurant also rushed over. He thought that everything would be settled inside the private room. Who knew that the trouble would spill over outside in plain view of all the guests outside? They had yet again encountered another guest who was not willing to pay. Each year, they would encounter a few guests who were like that. But he did not expect them to kick up such a fuss when there was a pregnant woman too. Did they think that his staff would not dare to lay a hand on them because there was a pregnant woman around? If that was the case, they had really underestimated them. Hey, you must pay for the food you eat. This is the natural order of things. You can't refuse to pay, the boss said. Exactly. It's useless to create trouble outside just because you don't want to pay. It's useless even if everyone is watching. You ate the dishes right. You ate the rice, right? Then you must pay. Seeing this, the tourists immediately understood what was happening as well. Although they were furious and found them very pitiful as the boss was extorting money from them, they nevertheless coaxed them from the sidelines after looking at the pregnant woman's belly. All right, take your wife and leave first. My point exactly. Money is a small issue. People are more important. But Ji Yujings did not say a word in response to everyone's advice. He merely looked at the boss. I'll give you another chance. Do you want the money or not? The boss said, $13,000. Not a dollar less. Otherwise, let's have a go at it. See who's on the losing end. Ji Yujing scoffed. Sure, I'll give you $300,000. The boss was stunned. $300,000? Ji Yujing said, but when it comes to the money I spend, I must make sure that every cent is well spent. What is worth that amount inside your restaurant? He waved his hand gently. Wreck the place and cause $300,000 worth of damage. Subsequently, while everyone was still confused about what his words meant, they saw that numerous people had appeared behind him all of a sudden, gathering around him silently. The boss's eyes immediately widened. The eyes of the chefs and the hired thugs in the restaurant were also blown wide. At this moment, they finally understood what he meant by telling them to cause $300,000 worth of damage. Without another word, they pushed the restaurant staff inside directly. Thereafter, they started to smash the things inside the restaurant. The brawny men in the restaurant still wanted to surge forth. But before they could even do so, they were immediately attacked. They fell onto the ground and started to wail in pain. Seeing this, everyone quickly ran far away. Only the tourists looked on from the sidelines. At the back, the boss yelled, "What are you trying to do? What are you doing? Call the police, call the police." Ji Yujing stood in the middle. When he raised his arm at this moment, he seemed incomparably tall and large. From beginning to end, his expression was still one of contempt. His gaze was nonchalant and seemed like a profound mystery. People could not see through his facade. There was also an overwhelming air of nobility in the way he spoke indifferently. He scoffed and said, "Good. Beat them up too, according to the guideline of $300,000 worth of medical bills." The boss was even more frightened when he heard this. He placed his arms over his head and ran out. But the tourists outside were clapping and cheering. Now, there would be something exciting for them to watch. Chapter 11:16. No way, I want to call the police. At this moment, Ji Yujing had already left this place with Lin Che in tow. He only said to her once they were outside, "That's enough. No need to bother with things here. Let's go back first." Sure, what a way to spoil the scenery. Lin Che continued, "The scenery is so beautiful, but these people just had to make things difficult. They valued money over their lives." Ji Yujing said, "There are too many shops here. It's probably difficult to regulate them. I will instruct someone to issue a reminder. If they don't regulate such situations, there will be many repercussions in the future as well." Indeed, if there's a first, there will be a second. While saying this, Lin Che hooked her arm through Ji Yujing's and continued walking straight ahead. But she suddenly remembered that she had not forgiven him. She immediately let go of his arm, scoffed, and walked straight ahead. Ji Yujing quickly chased after her. "Hey, why are you running?" Ji Yujing asked. Lin Che pursed her lips. "Humph." Ji Yujing quickly said placatingly, "All right. I've already said that I'm sorry. I didn't have many females working with me, to begin with. I won't hire any more in the future. To avoid trouble." Things were already troublesome as they were right now. Lin Che looked at him and said unhappily, "Hey, you're speaking as if I'm very harsh. It's not that I don't want any people of the opposite sex around you. It's not as if I disagree with you having friends and employees of the opposite sex either. Humph, do you still think that I got angry because there was a woman by your side? In that case, why wasn't I angry about other people, but only about her? Ji Yujing's put his hand on his forehead. Yes, yes, yes. I was in the wrong. You didn't get angry because of this. You only got angry because she had other improper motives. It's not because of that, either. Lin Che put her hands on her hips and got even angrier. Ji Yujing said, sure. I'm still in the wrong. Anyway, everything is my fault. You're always right, I mean it. Lin Che genuinely felt that a man could really kill someone from anger if he was forced to apologize. She looked at him. It's because I felt that you didn't trust me. You felt that I was the type of woman who would kick up a huge fuss because you had another woman around you. But I'm not. I know that I wasn't angry because there was a woman by your side, but because she went overboard in provoking me and had an excessively strong desire towards you. I could tell, but you couldn't, and you actually thought that I was kicking up a fuss. I got angry for this reason. Ji Yujing approached her and embraced her. Yes, I understand. He thought to himself that he understood what she was saying, but he did not know how to express it. At times, although he understood it internally, there was something particularly off about the words that came out of his mouth. He hugged her and said, all right. Let's not be angry anymore, okay? Lin Che scoffed. No. Hey, then what else do you want me to do? Lin Che huffed. Girls aren't that easy to cajole. Haven't you heard before that nasty people and girls are the hardest to look after? I'm a girl and I'm also a nasty person, so she stomped on his shoe, scoffed and walked away. You still have to continue putting some effort. Ji Yujing shook his head. He looked at the mark on his own shoe and could only sigh slightly. He knew that deep inside, she was probably not that angry anymore. She was merely continuing to throw a tantrum. He shook his head and sighed helplessly. But he sometimes felt that her short temper was very adorable too. This was probably a situation where you would like whatever the person you liked did. Whether good or bad, it was all done by him. Ji Yujing brought Lin Che back. Meanwhile, the people in the restaurant had already called the police. Many people said that they felt very depressed that someone had wrecked their restaurant. It was the first time they had encountered such a thing in their many years of business. They had not succeeded in extorting money. Instead, they had been beaten up and the shop had been wrecked. They told the police about this now and complained tearfully. Then, they also called their own relatives to help them look for those people and reason with them. They also asked around and found out that these people had gone in this direction. The tourists had seen the two of them travel in a heroic manner all the way. It was truly infuriating. Ji Yujing was still in the inn watching Lin Che eat while seated. Although she ate a lot over there, she was not full and wanted to continue eating after she returned. Since she was pregnant, it was natural for her to eat a lot. Ji Yujing carefully watched her eat while smiling gently beside her. However, just then, someone walked in from outside. Sir, the police are here. Chapter 11:17. Why did so many people like Ji Yujing? He scoffed and immediately went to give the bureau chief a call. After some time, the bureau chief arrived. Chief, they're inside, look. The bureau chief scoffed at him with an extremely displeased expression. No one knew what happened inside either. They only saw the bureau chief come out not long after and say to Ji Yujing, have a good rest. We won't disturb you any longer. We will definitely put that problematic restaurant in order. Similar incidents do happen in the tourist areas, but there aren't many of them. Don't worry, we will definitely form a special investigation team to thoroughly investigate such scams in one go. Rest well, rest well. No one knew what exactly was going on. They merely saw the bureau chief hastily leave from the room. The moment he came out, he immediately waved his hand and said, what do you do all the time? I can't believe such restaurants that rip people off still exist. All of you, go and bring them under control. You don't have to do anything else this month. Regulate every single restaurant that does this. I'll carry out an inspection after a month. If such restaurants are still around, each one of you will be fired. The row of people left hurriedly. Inside, Ji Yujing asked Lin Che, do you still want to stay here tonight? Yes, isn't this place quite nice? Ji Yujing said, all right. I'll get someone to go in and tidy the place up. He instructed some people to go in and disinfect the area. He felt that there was a lot of human traffic in a hotel like this that was located in such tourist areas. Their sterilization process was possibly not very thorough. Ji Yu Jings took Lin Che inside only after everything was done. That night, there was also an appealing song and dance performance being held in the hotel. Because Lin Che had nothing to do either, she went down to watch it with Ji Yu Jings accompanying her. During the performance, the female boss also personally took to the stage. According to the people here, she was a very well-loved and fairly famous singer. She had used the money she had earned from singing to open this pretty pleasant inn, which had attracted numerous people. It was so expensive precisely because she was famous. They watched from where they were as the woman walked around and sang to each person in the audience down below. When she reached Ji Yu Jings, she smiled and looked at Ji Yu Jings with a flirtatious gaze. She also placed the flower garland around his neck nicely. Ji Yu Jings said, "Thank you." He took off the flower garland and gave it to Lin Che beside him. The female boss was slightly disappointed. She glanced at him quietly before walking away. Lin Che thought to herself in disbelief. Seriously, he attracted women no matter where he went. Ji Yu Jings was really not suited to go outside. Lin Che and Ji Yu Jings returned after they finished watching the performance. She looked at the flower garland while walking and said, "Here. She gave this to you." Ji Yu Jings said, "What's mine is yours. It's for you too." Lin Che giggled and said, "Dear me. Traveling is quite tiring too. I'm so sleepy." Ji Yu Jings said, "Then go and sleep." In reality, this was not considered traveling at all. She had not really explored the place. But her body began to feel a little heavy. She had experienced many things today and felt a bit tired. In no time, she lay down to rest. She looked at Ji Yu Jings. "Aren't you going to sleep?" Ji Yu Jings said, "I'll sleep a little later. I still have to go out and settle some work matters." Lin Che asked, "Did you toss aside a lot of work in coming here so suddenly?" "Not really." However, just then, Ji Yu Jings suddenly heard a knock on the door. "Come in." "Sir, Secretary Lan is here." Lin Che froze. Ji Yu Jings narrowed his eyes. "Just tell her to go and work alone." His subordinate replied, "Secretary Lan says that she will keep waiting for you until she sees you." Ji Yu Jings scowled. Lin Che said, "In that case, go and meet her. It's bad to make her wait." Ji Yu Jings drew in a breath and glanced at Lin Che. "All right, in any case, she has been in GU Industries for so many years." Was he actually going? Lin Che watched as Ji Yu Jings left. Sitting on her bed, she cursed, "What a pig brain." Since Ji Yu Jings had actually gone, Lin Che was getting angry again. In actual fact, Ji Yu Jings merely wanted to make himself clear. But he did not tell Lin Che that. Upon seeing Ji Yu Jings, Secretary Lan immediately said, "President Ji Yu, I know that I made a mistake. I've lived in S City for so many years. I've seen this branch grow too. I don't want to go to Austria. I want to stay here and strive." Secretary Lan knew that Ji Yu Jings still cherished old relationships. After so many years, the people closest to him had not changed at all. If not for the incident involving her, she would probably stay here for a very long time too. Ji Yu Jings looked at Secretary Lan. "If you don't go to Austria, I'll choose another place for you. How about Dubai?" "I won't go, President Ji Yu." "In that case, South Africa." President Ji Yu, two streams of clear tears rolled down Secretary Lan's face. "I was truly wrong. Because I've been with you for so many years, give me a chance." Ji Yu Jings scoffed. "Leave, Secretary Lan. It looks like your relationship with GU Industries has come to an end. Since you don't want to stay, you can leave." Ji Yu Jings waved his hand. "Take her away. I don't want to see her anywhere in GU Industries. President Ji Yu, I beg you." Nevertheless, Secretary Lan was chased out. She genuinely had not expected Ji Yu Jings to expel her directly because of this incident. At the very least, she had been with him for 8 years. Why did he have to treat her like this over such a trivial matter? For the sole reason that she had made Lin Che angry. Meanwhile, Lin Che sat on the bed and continued listening to the sounds outside. It seemed that Ji Yu Jings had not returned yet. She wondered why Secretary Lan had come. It was definitely to plead for mercy. What about Ji Yu Jings? Was he going to let Secretary Lan continue staying here because she had taken the initiative to come? She thought that even if Secretary Lan remained here, she probably would not have the guts anymore. But she was unlikable, so Lin Che felt loathing the moment she thought of her. Just then, she heard someone knocking on the door. Thinking it was Ji Yu Jings, Lin Che jumped off the bed and opened the door. The person at the door was none other than the female boss of the inn. Lin Che could tell that the female boss was slightly disappointed that Lin Che had opened the door. She smiled sheepishly and said, "You haven't gone to bed yet. I came to bring you some incense. There are many mosquitoes here." The boss had came personally to bring incense for them. They sure had very few staff in such a huge inn. The female boss looked around the room in great disappointment. She felt slightly unhappy at the fact that she did not see Ji Yu Jings. She could only sigh and think to herself that she had come at an inopportune time. She said, "Hey, where is that man from your family?" Lin Che thought to herself, "You came late. Another woman has already summoned him." Lin Che said, "Hee. He had something on outside. Just put it here. I'll pass on the message." "Oh, alright then. Come out and have some tea when you're free." The boss had no choice but to leave after she finished speaking. After watching her leave, Lin Che said in disbelief inside the room, "Terrible, terrible. Why do so many people like Ji Yu Jings? It's so annoying." Chapter 11:18. It's alright, we'll do it more gently. After what had happened over the past 2 days, Lin Che genuinely felt that it would be better if Ji Yu Jings was a bit uglier, a bit more detestable, and an extremely irritating nouveau riche. Then, he would be looked upon with disdain wherever he went. Anyway, she would like him as long as he was Ji Yu Jings. She did not care whether or not he was ugly. But why did Ji Yu Jings simply have to be such an outstanding man? By this time, Ji Yu Jings had already returned. Coincidentally, he had come back precisely when she was feeling frustrated inside the room. When he entered, Ji Yu Jings saw Lin Che standing there and breathing heavily with displeasure written all over her face. Ji Yu Jings asked, "What are you doing?" Lin Che turned her head and said, "It's nothing." Ji Yu Jings smiled. "If it's nothing, what's up with your expression? Tell me what's going on." Lin Che turned to look at Ji Yu Jings. "I already said that I'm fine. It's nothing." Ji Yu Jings walked towards her. "Are you angry because I went out?" He wanted to tell her that Secretary Lan had already been dismissed. However, at this moment, Lin Che pointed at the incense. Earlier, the indescribably beautiful and striking female boss was worried that mosquitoes would bite you at night. Because there are many mosquitoes here, she wanted you to quickly put her incense of love to use. Ji Yu Jings turned around and glanced at the incense. Then, he looked at Lin Che. "So?" Lin Che turned and said, "Well, aren't you going to thank her personally for giving it to you out of the goodness of her heart? She came specially to see you earlier. It's a pity that she didn't catch a glimpse of you. She must be feeling very sad right now." Ji Yu Jings looked at her with his eyebrows raised. "Well then, I'll go and thank her." Lin Che whipped her head around. Ji Yu Jings said, "I'm going." Lin Che bit her lip. Go ahead. He could forget about coming back if he left. Ji Yu Jings actually turned around and walked out. Lin Che widened her eyes. She watched Ji Yu Jings close the door after walking out. This Ji Yu Jings. Lin Che immediately got even angrier. She felt unbearably angry when she thought of how other women looked at him as if they were about to devour him whole. She quickly opened the door and walked out. She wanted to see what that female boss would dare to do to Ji Yu Jings. How dare he actually go? Was he not afraid of developing rashes all over his body and itching to death? She took one step out and was about to rush out while gasping for breath when someone suddenly blocked her. Lin Che focused her gaze and saw Ji Yu Jings right in front of her, looking at her from above. Lin Che froze. Had he not gone? She clung onto his arm. "Why didn't you go?" Ji Yujing said, I've already gone. You went, Lin Che pouted. Why did you come back after leaving for such a short time? You should have stayed there a little longer. Ji Yujing pinched her mouth. I was worried that someone would kill herself from jealousy, so I had to rush back here. Lin Che turned her head away. What jealousy? Ji Yujing laughed out loud. You're still saying you're not jealous? Look at your mouth, you can even hang a pot on it. Lin Che turned her head away even more. Not at all. Ji Yujing lowered his head and captured her lips in one fell swoop. At a time like this was the only way to make her shut up. Lin Che whimpered. They were still in the doorway. What was he doing? Don't, she whined. She parted her lips slightly and gasped for breath while looking at him. Don't be like this. Ji Yujing asked, why? Am I not allowed to kiss you? Lin Che blushed. She caught a glimpse of people walking around beside them. It seemed that some people were already looking in this direction. This was a tourist area. There were more people here than there were in ordinary places. There are so many people here. Ji Yujing said, it's fine. I just want to let everyone know that I already have a wife. No matter where I am, I can say this to anyone. I can tell them that we have a very good relationship. No matter how much they lust after me, it's useless. As he said this, he pressed his lips down on hers once again. He lingered about her lips before diving straight in, enveloping her completely in his taste. The people around them who saw this were truly very envious. They were still so loving even when the wife was pregnant. Lin Che was in a daze as he kissed her. They embraced each other from outside. Ji Yujing could no longer control himself. His body was stiff and his eyes were closed. The areas of his body that came into contact with hers heated up. He let go of her in a daze. She looked at him. There's something. There was something below pushing up against her. It was so obvious that it was difficult to ignore. She looked down and her face turned red. Ji Yujing closed his eyes while peppering her face with gentle kisses. I'm fine. Lin Che asked, how are you fine? You're really hot too. Ji Yujing continued to land kisses on her face. He gave her kiss after kiss until he reached her collarbone. He drew in a deep breath as if catching a whiff of her scent could ignite his passion too. He began licking her greedily. Really, I'm fine. How could he be fine? Even the expression on his face seemed pained. She really could not bear to see him like this. She felt that he had had a hard time controlling himself for the past few months. In reality, it was not as if they could not do it. Seeing that he was about to put his hands down reluctantly, she grabbed his hands swiftly and looked up searchingly. I can actually do it. It'll be fine as long as we're careful. Of course, Ji Yujing did not dare to. He was afraid of hurting her. To begin with, it was usually difficult for him to withstand his urges. It's alright, let's be more careful. I'll sense it if I feel uncomfortable. She stroked his hand and his fingers and continued moving down his arm. Ji Yujing was already sucking in a breath and letting out a groan at the brief contact. He pressed down on her shoulder. You little hussy, are you trying to kill me? Lin Che blushed. You don't have to control yourself. I mean it. Her words were literally hypnotizing poison. How could he control himself with her calling him so gently? He looked at the inviting expression on her face and could no longer hold himself back. In no time, he bit her lips and seized the opportunity to push her onto the bed behind. Be more careful, be more careful. He kept repeating this phrase in his mind, but he still recalled the past with immense emotion. It had really been too long. Only being able to hug her and not touch her was truly the greatest torture on earth. But he still did not dare to touch her for the sake of her body. This time, he already felt very satisfied that he was able to let himself go a little even though he was still very suppressed. She was also much more passionate because it had been a long time since she had touched him. After the two of them had their fill on the bed, they cuddled together and hugged each other quietly. Lin Che slowly fell asleep as she leaned against him. Ji Yujing felt invigorated again after a while, but she was already satisfied. Thus, he simply looked at her in silence and did not touch her again. The next day, Lin Che got her hands on the pictures that she had taken here. The photographer said, "We only adjusted the color contrast. We basically didn't Photoshop it. Your style is already perfect." Chapter 11:19. He sent her so much food. Seeing that the photos had indeed turned out very well, Lin Che was all smiles. She was very happy. And today, perhaps because his desire had been satiated, Ji Yu Jings was also in a very good mood and immediately gave the photographer a large amount in tips. That afternoon, the two of them drove back to S City. In the car, Mu Feiren called her to say that she had already started filming. Lin Che asked, "How are things on set? How are you and Nan Gongyu getting along?" Quote. Mu Feiren said, "It's all right. He hasn't been making things too difficult for me. I, on the other hand, have a bit of difficulty getting used to this new role. After all, I haven't acted properly in many years." Lin Che said, "Indeed. I was the same back then. You'll be fine after familiarizing yourself with it for a few days. I'm going back very soon. I'll definitely go and visit you on set when the time comes." Sure, of course. Mu Feiren had already been on set for 2 days. After they were done for the day, they were planning to have an opening ceremony while everyone was present. Although she had already arrived yesterday, they had not announced it as it was not an auspicious day. Naturally, many people came to film the process since it was an opening ceremony. All the reporters arrived early in the morning. Because they were promoting the series as Mu Feiren's first comeback series, and on top of that the director was none other than Nan Gongyu, the reporters felt that there were many things to write about. After conducting the prayers for the opening ceremony, everyone gathered for an interview. The male lead was a rookie. However, he was exceptionally handsome. He was a little shy as he stood at the side. He seriously woke up smiling each morning because he had scenes with Mu Feiren in his very first time acting the lead role. Furthermore, with this production crew, there was immediately hope for him to get famous. Thus, of course, the male lead's face was brimming with joy. But he was also much more careful as he was worried that he would cause trouble. The reporter looked at Mu Feiren and asked, "Why did you choose a web series as your first production after making your comeback? Do you have any plans for your comeback this time?" Mu Feiren said, "I don't have many plans. I chose this because I felt that the script was very interesting. Right now, I just want to film what I want to film. I'll film whatever I find challenging and want to film, instead of filming only what others say I must film." Did you and Nan Gongyu collaborate all because you were Lin Che's good friends? It does have something to do with Lin Che. But the main reason is because Lin Che gave it to me to read, telling me that she found it interesting after reading it for 2 days and 2 nights. I thought it was great too, so we decided together to film this. At the mention of Lin Che, everyone quickly started asking questions. What has Lin Che been doing over her long break? People say that Lin Che is about to get married. Is that true? Will Lin Che still make a comeback? She can't be planning to retire and go into production. Mu Feiren smiled. She's just taking a short break. I believe she'll return eventually. The subsequent questions were all evaded. After everyone had gone in, Mu Feiren said to them, "Thank you everyone, for your understanding over the past few days. I may not be able to act well since I just returned. I'm truly sorry." However, the moment she entered, she heard someone say, "Sister Feiren, thank you for the free refreshments. You even treated us to such good food." Confused, Mu Feiren asked, "What? Did I treat you to anything?" Why was she unaware of this? Someone pushed out a dining table from inside. It was covered in desserts and drinks from Suki. Mu Feiren was flabbergasted. "These are..." "All right, Sister Feiren, don't joke around anymore. The people who sent them here already said that you bought the food for us." Yes, it's from Suki too. It has been very expensive recently. Most importantly, I wanted to go and eat it before this, but I couldn't get into the queue. They only sell 100 a day. Wow, we have nearly 100 here, right? It can't be that Sister Feiren bought everything for us." Mu Feiren had a genuine expression of complete confusion on her face. She looked at everyone and did not know what to say. She had indeed forgotten about treating everyone to a meal. Earlier, she had thought that she could bring everyone to have hot pot or something in the next few days. But she did not expect someone else to beat her to it. Upon seeing Mu Feiren behave this way, someone immediately guessed too. While eating, he said vaguely, "Hee hee, Sister Feiren, why do you not know anything about this? Could it be that someone helped you order the food?" Everyone was even more interested when they heard that someone had ordered the food on her behalf. Really, is it a man? Sister Feiren, do you have a new boyfriend? Wow, no way, he's so thoughtful, he gave you such a huge surprise. He was not just thoughtful. He had to be very powerful too, if he was able to buy such expensive and rare refreshments. Everyone chattered continuously. They said, "Sister Feiren, when will you bring him here?" Exactly. Isn't he going to come and visit you on set? All of us will welcome him. Mu Feiren's face turned even redder due to their comments. Alright, there's nothing like that, don't talk rubbish. Mu Feiren shouted and quickly went in. However, she truly did not know what to say as she looked at the refreshments. There was only one person on Mu Feiren's mind. At this moment, someone called her. She picked up her phone and saw that it really was him. Mo Jinyan. She picked up her phone and said hastily, "You." "Oh, what about me?" Mo Jinyan asked. Mu Feiren said, "No, nothing. You." She did not know how to ask if he had sent the food. Mo Jinyan asked, "Have you finished filming?" Today was the opening ceremony. We're done here. Come out, I'll take you to pick up Union. To pick up Union? Mu Feiren looked at the time. Indeed, it was already time to get off school. She ran out and saw Mo Jinyan's car, as expected. She hastily got in. Mo Jinyan looked at her. Did filming go well? Mu Feiren sighed. I'm still trying to get into the groove. I think I'll really let down the director and the staff for the next few days. Mo Jinyan said, "It's alright. They've taken your gifts. They will bear with you for a few days." Hearing this, Mu Feiren whipped her head around to look at Mo Jinyan. Was he saying that it really was him? She looked at him while blushing. "So, they were really sent by you. You." Mo Jinyan said, "I just thought that since you just arrived, perhaps it would be better to give them something." Mu Feiren wrung her hands. "But you didn't need to go to such trouble either. It was so much trouble." "It's alright, you look after Union alone and you're so busy too. You probably couldn't take that into consideration. I just so happened to think of it." Mu Feiren's eyes twitched and she looked at him. "Thank you." Mo Jinyan asked, "Don't you think that you've said the words, 'thank you,' too many times?" Mu Feiren felt her heart pound. He was right, she had said, "thank you," many times because she sincerely had too many things to thank him for. Otherwise, what should she do? He was truly too good to her. He was a burly man but seemed to have thought of everything on her behalf. How could she possibly not be touched? He said, "If you say thank you again I'm going to ask you for wages." Mu Feiren burst out in laughter and said, Sure. I'll give you wages. How much do you want?" Mo Jinyan said, "It's up to you." He glanced at her lips. They said that when a man was looking at your lips, he was thinking about. Mu Feiren lowered her head bashfully. Chapter 11:20. Good gracious, you're so intimate with each other. But something occurred to her just then. She looked up and asked, "Well, I heard that desserts from Suki are very difficult to buy. There are only 100 pieces a day. Did you order them beforehand because you had already had that in mind?" She thought that perhaps they could be ordered in advance. He said, "Oh, it was easy." She looked at him to see him say calmly, "I didn't have to order them in advance." "Oh, is that so? Maybe with your status it was easier for you to go and order them. In any case, they said that we wouldn't be able to buy them." Mo Jinyan said, "I instructed my men to go there early in the morning and tell him I wanted everything. Initially, he refused to sell them to me. I said that he could decide between selling them to me or having his store wrecked and trashed into the bin. He sold them to me in the end. So he had actually stolen them. Although she could not call that stealing either. But it was no different. Furthermore, he had done it in such an open manner. There was nothing anyone could do about it." Mu Feiren truly could not imagine the facial expressions of the staff in the store. They were probably in disbelief but dared not voice it. Mu Feiren said, "Next time, we can give everyone food that is a bit easier to get. They will be very happy too." "Oh, like what? I haven't given people things very often. Tell me about your past experiences," he said. Mu Feiren thought about it. She wanted to say lamb skewers but was afraid he would suddenly send a few lambs over to be barbecued. She wanted to suggest hotpot but feared that he would immediately build a hotpot restaurant on the set. She wanted to say. She could only say, never mind, it's nothing." She would not talk about it anymore, lest he comes up with something even more serious than robbing a store. Mu Feiren looked at Mo Jinyan. For a moment, she felt that no matter how powerful a person was, there could nevertheless be several cute qualities about him. For instance, this incident truly changed her impression of him slightly. When he was unreasonable, she genuinely felt that he was kind of adorable. She may not have noticed it, but why did she find him adorable when he was unreasonable? Perhaps it was actually because anything done by a person you liked would be cute. Lin Che did not go for the opening ceremony, because she knew that many reporters would definitely be there, whereas she was not in a position to appear there at the moment. But she would definitely go when she visited her on set later on. After all, this was a series that her company was producing. She had to go and take a look. Today, Mu Feiren had scenes with the young and handsome male lead. As Mu Feiren had not filmed for a long time, she still needed to familiarize herself with the process. As for the male lead, he was also a little stiff because he was acting with Mu Feiren and felt genuinely nervous. Behind them, Nan Gongyu called out, "Can you guys do it or not? Are we going to waste the entire day on the two of you?" Mu Feiren asked sheepishly, "Why don't we rehearse one more time? Let's try to evoke our emotions again." Nan Gongyu curled his lips. "Feiren, I understand that you returned recently. I'll give you another day. If we can't film tomorrow, I will really get angry." "Yes, I'll try my best, for sure." Mu Feiren sighed and shook her head. Just then, Lin Che came in. "Wow, Nan Gongyu, you're so strict." Upon seeing Lin Che, Nan Gongyu sat up in his chair. "Hey, big shot producer. You're not going to interfere with this, too, right?" Lin Che said, "Of course not. I was just saying that you're a devilish director, as expected." Inside, Mu Feiren said, "It's also because I'm not up to par. The director is not bad. He's not that fierce." Because Lin Che was here, the production crew stopped filming briefly. The remaining tasks still continued, while filming ceased. Some people went to set up the backdrop. Some went to prepare the props while others went to touch up the makeup. Several people involved in the filming process continued to watch from beside Lin Che. Nan Gongyu looked at Lin Che's belly and clicked his tongue twice. Sure enough, his prediction back then had been right. Although she was wearing a very loose dress to avoid being too obvious outside, her stomach was still slightly visible. While they could not see it protruding, they could tell that she was pregnant. Everyone here belonged to the production crew. Most of them were employees of the company, so they were also aware of her physical condition. The rest had signed non-disclosure agreements too. They did not dare to spread rumors in the industry either, lest people find out that they were the ones spreading the rumors. In the future, they would have a bad reputation and people may not dare to engage their services again. This industry still placed emphasis on reputation, especially for staff who carried out miscellaneous tasks. The young man at the side hastily greeted Lin Che respectfully upon seeing her. "Sister Che." He was a young idol from their company. He had just debuted and was still very cautious. Lin Che said, "How are things? Isn't it very exciting to be working with a goddess in your first series?" The young idol quickly said, yes. It's truly a great honor. I'm just afraid that I will make mistakes and hinder Sister Feiren." Mu Feiren said, "Don't say that. I'm no different from a rookie right now. Didn't you see it? The director even yelled at me earlier. While we're acting, we'll only do things according to our roles. I will only be Sister Feiren when we're outside. You're the powerful male lead in the series. I'm the female lead who has to rely on you for survival." Nan Gongyu said, "That's right. Listen to Feiren. Don't cower in front of a woman. The series will turn out so terrible. This male lead simply has to be more overbearing. Hearing this, the young idol felt very strongly as well. He hastily said, yes, I'll definitely work hard. But even though he said so, he was acting with Mu Feiran when he had only just started. There was no way he could forget her status as a top actress so quickly. Even if a top actress was making her comeback, she was still a top actress. She had so many fans and was so famous back then. Her years of experience also spoke for themselves. Anyone would be nervous. He moved to the side to adjust himself. He knew that he could not waste everyone's time because of this. He had to adjust himself to the situation. Lin Che smiled while looking at him. He's a rookie from our company. Director Nan Gongyu, how do you find him? He's not bad, right? Nan Gongyu said, I really can't tell right now. Apart from being good looking and having quite a good personality, I haven't seen any other good qualities. Tech, you're not considering my feelings at all. He's so much worse than he was during the audition, he said. Lin Che nudged Mu Feiran. It's all because Feiran's presence is too strong. He was frightened silly. Mu Feiran said, of course not. What does it have to do with me? Nan Gongyu let the two girls walk around the set first while he went off to speak to the male lead about his scenes. Mu Feiran even said, Nan Gongyu is really good. You're fortunate to have met him through a production. In actual fact, most of the directors whom Mu Feiran met would be very respectful towards her and would be particularly subservient to her. That made her feel uncomfortable instead. Nan Gongyu berated her when she had to be berated. It made her feel much better. The two of them were still speaking when they heard the sound of cars outside. They looked up. Black Hawk. Lin Che caught sight of Mo Jinyan and immediately shouted, hey, why? The moment Black Hawk alighted from the car and saw that Lin Che was around too, he froze as well. Lin Che instantly understood. Black Hawk was definitely not here to see her. She laughed mischievously. Hey, you guys are. Black Hawk said directly, I'm here to bring coffee. Why? As he said this, with a wave of his large hand, the people trailing behind him walked straight inside while carrying coffee machines and pulling in the staff of the cafe. What the hell? He really had a way of doing things.